Okay, so one thing that you have probably learned if you've been in this program very long is that our relationship with somebody is literally our thoughts about them. I think that's like so mind-boggling to understand. Like the relationship I have with someone, it's really just what I think about that person. And so I can create relationships the way that I want because I get to start them in my mind. And I think that's powerful. But when it comes to our kids, what about those kids that are just kind of hard to love? Or then maybe they're just going through a stage that's really difficult. And every day they try our patience. No matter what parenting strategy we dream up, they tend to not respond well to it. Sometimes they even have a difficult temperament. In fact, listen to this. Experts say that about 10 to 20% of children are born with what is titled a difficult temperament. Did you know that? You're like, I see. Okay, so some of these traits include high, often impulsive behavior, extra sensitivity to sensory stimulation, being overwhelmed by change in routines and new experiences, intense, inflexible reactions, being easily distracted or incredibly focused, adapting slowly to change, not able to calm themselves well, irregular biological rhythms such as hunger and sleep schedules, rapid, intense mood swings resulting in acting out or withdrawing completely. That sounds more like it's describing me at times. I mean, life is not easy, and especially for children. They're just young human beings who are trying so hard to learn how to regulate their emotions and how to navigate through a life that has a lot of things coming at them all at once, right? And some children, to be honest, are kind of difficult because we've created a scenario where we've allowed certain behaviors to the point that now our child is hard to manage. And, maybe we can take a little bit of responsibility in that, not to beat ourselves up, but to learn from it. And so, what do we do with children like that who don't really respond very well to our parenting and to our strategies of discipline and all the things we're trying to do to help them? Well, let's talk about that. It's like, how can I have positive relationship with that kid? How can I have positive thoughts when this child, quite honestly, is testing me all day, every day, and I'm exhausted from it? Have you ever felt that way? Let's dive in. I don't know who first coined this phrase, and it's probably overused, but it's when the going gets tough, love harder. And I truly believe that that is a great little motto to adopt because the going does get tough often when we're mothers with particular children at different times. And so I understand the part about the going gets tough. I've experienced that. But how do we love harder? Like, what does that mean? Love hard. It kind of feels like love and hard don't go together, right? So, what does it mean to love hard? I would really encourage you to come up with your own definition of that. What does it look like to you? What does it sound like to you? What does it feel like to you to love hard? What if you decided, I'm going to take this child and I'm going to love this child harder than I've ever loved anyone before? What difference would that make? And what would that entail? What would you do? Um, I think one thing I have come to understand is that my children are also very diverse. We have 5 children. They're all very different from one another. Some of them share similar character traits, some of them don't. I adore every one of them. I'm so thankful for what they teach me, but I've learned that it's useful for me if I figure out what makes them tick. What is their love language, right? Like, do they really need a hug when they're not feeling good, when they're feeling down or discouraged? Do they want that physical touch? Do they need to be praised more often than maybe some of other children? Like, what is it that helps them feel secure and loved? And if I can figure that out and I can remember it, then it helps me at times when I see there being some struggle to love harder. It helps me to love harder in a way that they will actually respond the best to. So I think that's something to keep in mind. And first, I want to remind you of this principle as well. Life is 50-50, right? We've learned that. If you've been going through this program, you've learned life is 50-50, which means it's like half amazing and half kind of terrible. And I don't know if that's an exact number. Brooke Castillo, I think, made it up. But it makes sense to me sometimes when I think, yeah, it's going to be like every day is like half pretty amazing and half kind of bad and yada, 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 right? In the span of a lifetime, it seems like it works out that way. And I think understanding that helps us to not be so upset when things aren't going well. But have you ever considered this thought? And it is that people are 50-50 too. I mean, they really are. We're human beings. We come to earth. We have this like natural man part of us, right? That kind of likes to rebel and wants to have control. And it's pretty selfish, prideful, all those things. Now that sounds really negative, and I don't mean it because I think human beings are incredible. I think that we're capable of so much more than we ever realize. And I think we have so much inherent good within us that sometimes we don't even tap into enough, or we don't, other people don't even recognize because it's there and it's so real. But the truth is that we make mistakes a lot. Like we're pretty much half saint and half sinner. We do so amazing things, good things, build people up, make a contribution to the world, love people, and then sometimes we kind of hate and we tear people down and we judge them and we do things that don't help the world be a better place. And that doesn't mean we're bad people. It means we're human beings, because that is how people are. And I think that remembering that is useful, because when you're looking at your children and they are struggling and you are struggling with them, and you remember, you know what? Here's the thing about this child. Yes, this child is hard right now. This child is testing my patience all the time. This child exhausts me. This child has behavior that really bothers me on a regular basis. All of that is true, right? Maybe all of that is true for you. That's the reality that you feel. But here's what else is true: that child is also the opposite of that. That child is kind and good. That child brings you joy and peace. That child does things that make your heart just adore them. Like, really and truly, when you really think about it and you look at this child and you think about all of your interaction and you see how much this child is trying, and you also, when you think, man, this kid just has some things kind of stacked against him a little bit. So it helps you have compassion, and you recognize, no, this child isn't all these negative things. This child is just a human being, half amazing and half struggling, just like me. And I think when we can recognize that and remember it, then we feel compassion, and we lead with compassion and love more than we lead with criticism or frustration. And that is always a good thing. Okay, so that's one thing to remember. Pay attention to that 50%. That's amazing. Look for it. Like, look really hard for it. Sometimes I feel like I have to look really hard. I remember I have got a degree in education. And so as part of my training, I had to conduct parent teacher conferences. And I remember some kids, it was like, let's see, I want to start off really positive when their parents come in and say some really positive things about their child. And it was hard. It was hard to think of those things, but I could always find them. There were always good things, always things about their kid that I wanted them to know were going well, and that their child was trying or doing this that was good. And so sometimes it's harder. It's harder. It doesn't immediately pop up in your mind, but look for those things, because it really does make a difference. Like, what is going right? The other thing that I think is really helpful is to avoid labeling. And I think this can sometimes be hard. We label our children in so many ways we don't even recognize. Like, this child is just a happy child. Even though that seems like a positive label, it's a label. And then that child maybe feels this expectation to always be happy. That's kind of an impossible thing to do. Or this child is just so hard, right? This child is this child is that. And when we label our children, this thing happens. They actually start believing those labels themselves. They start labeling themselves as that thing as well. And it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. I was actually telling my husband the other day, I feel so blessed. I grew up in this really fabulous family. Good parents that I'm thankful for every day. But I remember growing up, and I something that I heard regularly, a few terms I heard to describe me throughout my childhood were that I was a worrier, I that I was a wimp, that I was dramatic and a baby, that I whined a lot. Like those are some things that I kind of heard regularly, and I believed them about myself. And I didn't want to be those things, and I felt shame because of them, and I wanted to step into a new identity, but I didn't know how. I mean, I didn't have those kind of skills. And those things have stuck with me. I still find myself fighting those identities that I felt like I was labeled with as a child. Like, oh, like lately I'm like, have been dealing with some health issues. And I'm like, I'm such a whiner. And then I'm like, no, I'm not a whiner. I don't want to label myself a whiner. Then I just whine more. But I'm a person who's going through a hard time and sometimes needs to express how difficult it is. That's what I am. So be careful of labeling your child, really. Then when I think about labels, I think of canned foods with labels, nutrition labels. I think of labeling shelves or whatever it might be so I can organize my things. That's a good place for labeling. But when it comes to your children, really be careful of the way you speak about them and the labels you give them, because they know and they feel it and they begin to label themselves that way, and then they begin to live in that identity. And so, what if you thought of the identity that you and the potential you see possible for your child, and you start treating your child as if they are already that person? Can you imagine the difference that it would make? And it won't be easy, and it just takes small steps every day. Don't beat yourself up if you're not really good at that, but I think that effort can be so worth it, rather than labeling your child as being, my child is so hard, my child is so whiny, whatever it might be. Okay. I think it's also, for me, always helpful to remember that I have literally like thousands of different emotions I can choose from at any given time. And I do get to choose my emotions. Remember, our emotions come from what we think. And so if I can think about how I want to feel about a child, maybe I'm upset at a child pretty regularly and I'm disappointed. I feel this disappointment wanting to settle in. And I don't want to feel disappointed in my kids, because that isn't helpful to them or to me. I know they're trying and I'm trying. And so I think, what emotion would I like to feel about this child? And I start there. And I think, you know what I would like to feel for this child? I would like to feel compassion. I would like to feel empathy. I would like to feel kindness. I would like to feel some connection. And then I think, okay, what would create that emotion? What would help me to feel that way about this particular child right now? That's the thoughts I'm going to choose, are the ones that lead me to feeling that way, because I do get to choose. And that is what will increase connection and improve my relationship, right? Because our thoughts are our relationships about people. And so remembering that, look, I don't have to be disgusted or frustrated or angry or put out all the time. All the time. I don't have to be that way anytime. I can choose something else. I can choose to be understanding. I can choose to try to see things from my child's perspective and lean toward empathy, which means I'm leaning toward love. And that is how you love harder, right? Though that is another way to love harder. Um, okay, I think we all know this, but it always helps to spend more time with your child. And that can be hard when you're struggling with a particular child or a particular behavior. It's like, the last thing I want to do is sign up for more time with them. I just want a break. I want them to have a nap. I want them to go to a friend's house. I want them to go to bed at night or whatever. I just need a break. But if you can increase connection with that child, you will be amazed at the difference that it will make. It will help your child feel more secure and more loved. And think about it, when you feel more secure and more loved, are you easier to get along with or harder to get along with? Do you feel more empowered to manage your emotions and regulate yourself, or less empowered to do that? That connection makes all the difference. And it can start with the smallest things: a high five at breakfast, a question about what they're doing, and then a follow-up question, a pat on the back. Like, it just takes the smallest ways to increase connection. But sometimes it does mean that we give them a little more of our time. And I have found that never to be time wasted. Any time with my kids is never wasted time. And so I encourage you, if you have a child that you're struggling with, to think, how can I spend even 5 minutes with this child, just being with them? No agenda. No agenda whatsoever. No matter how difficult they are, I'm just going to love. I'm going to smile at them. I'm going to give positive words, positive touch. What if I just, this week, 5 minutes a day? And you see what happens. And then maybe the next week you can do 10 minutes a day. and build on that, because that connection, that time that you offer will make a tremendous difference. If you have a child that feels a little, that is having behavior that feels to you like it's a little bit out of control, or they are constantly pushing back and being negative, there's something going on there, right? So instead of judgment, what if you got really curious and you're like, I wonder what is happening here? Why is my child behaving this way? Because it seems like it's a personal thing and that they just hate you and they just want to make your life miserable. But that's pretty dramatic. And I think if we peel back the layers, we realize that isn't true. So what is going on? How is my child not getting their needs met? What are they hurting about inside? And how can I help them figure that out? How can I help them understand a different way to regulate themselves and their emotions so that they're happier? And that's when loving harder is very real, and it makes a tremendous difference. So spend time with your child, just play with them, listen to them, connect with them. I also would say never underestimate the power of positive, appropriate touch. As human beings, we have, I don't know how many, what is it, how many inches or miles or whatever of skin on our bodies. We have a lot of skin, and that skin craves touch. Some people are more touchy-feely than others. You might be like, I'm not a touchy-feely person, or my child isn't touchy-feely. And that's okay. You don't have to be. And again, remember, that's kind of a label, right? But everybody needs to feel that physical contact with another human being, even if it's just sitting right beside and feeling like shoulder to shoulder, even if it is just a hand on the shoulder or a pat on the back, just the smallest things. It helps your kids feel grounded. It helps them feel physically grounded and emotionally grounded so that they have a better opportunity to manage their emotions and understand what they're feeling and doing. Because more than likely, if their behavior seems out of control to you, they are feeling out of control inside. And that's a terrible way to feel. So what can you do to help them feel grounded and to help them feel more secure and feel more supported? You offer that positive physical touch when you can. Just can be very small things. You help them know that they are not alone and that you do love them despite any of their behavior. And you do have to stand firm on behaviors that are not appropriate, right? This maybe throwing things or breaking things or whatever it might be. You have to stand firm and have those boundaries created and those outcomes created. But just remember that there's so many ways that you can also follow up with loving harder than you did even before. With increasing connection, with increasing the way that you love, talk to this child, listen to this child, and connect. And so I hope this is super helpful. How to love that extra difficult child that you're not going to call extra difficult. How to love at times when your kids are going through a hard stage, and even how to love yourself at times when you're going through a hard stage, right? Remember, you're 50-50 too. Remember, you have a whole platter of emotions that you can choose to to feel about yourself, and then find thoughts that lead to those emotions. Remember that you deserve compassion, just like your kids do. That it's not about perfection. It's just about effort and trying. And remember that it's okay for you to spend time taking care of yourself too, just like you spend time with your kids when they're having a hard time. All right. There you go. Love harder. Love that extra difficult child. Love yourself. You got this.